And so the Bnei Israel in Parashat Tissah yesterday, they did the worst thing, one of the worst things we've ever done as a nation. We worship the golden calf. It's amazing. How? How could we do such a thing? We just had Matan Torah. We heard Hashem's voice himself. And so quick after, we're doing the golden calf. And so there's a lot of opinions about the golden calf. The Gemara does say that the golden calf happened, the Egel HaZahav happened in order to give an opening for anyone in future times to do teshuvah. Hashem wanted to show you can do teshuvah for anything that happens in your life. There is never a point of no return in life. And so Hashem says certain times during history, I'm going to make things happen, and I'm going to show you how they came back from it to give you inspiration. And the Gemara says the same thing about David HaMelech and Bathsheba. Hashem made David HaMelech, the impulses were so strong, he couldn't fight it. He couldn't fight it. Why? Just to show us that you can do it and you can do teshuvah. And so there are many commentators who say that the Egel HaZahav, the golden calf, Hashem sort of set us up, made us sort of do it, and then we did teshuvah from it. The famous thing that they say that the Satan showed the people and said, look, Moshe Rabbeinu's coffin, don't you see it in heaven in the clouds? It's Moshe Rabbeinu's coffin, he's dead, right? And so we were tricked into it. And then obviously, Aaron, look at Aaron's words. He says, hey Moshe, what do you want from me? I threw the gold into the fire, out pops a golden calf. This is magic. I didn't ask for this thing to happen. Why did Hashem let that happen? And so it leads you to say, this, like the Gemara is saying, the whole thing was like a setup almost, so that we could do teshuvah. The Sefer HaKuzari says that it really wasn't Avodah Zarah. We didn't try to worship another God. That wasn't the point. As we know from a lot of the commentators, we just want a middleman to Hashem. It's very hard for us to have nothing tangible that we can see and touch. And here we said, no, only Hashem. Well, I can't see Hashem. Where is he? I want someone. I want a rabbi, right? And so we lost our rabbi. Moshe Rabbeinu's gone. He didn't come back. He said he would be back. He wasn't back on time, as we thought. And so we need a new rabbi. And so if it's going to be the calf, let it be the calf. We want something we can touch. We want something tangible. We try to serve Hashem, says the Kuzari. We tried to serve Hashem through the golden calf. Not that we were serving the golden calf. However, we violated the rules. Hashem says, I want you to serve me the way I tell you to serve me, not the way you think you should serve me. I saw a nice line by Rabbi Jeremy Finn in New York. He says, the golden calf wasn't so much Avodah Zarah, serving an idol. It was Avodat Hashem that was Zarah. It was serving Hashem in a strange way. We still tried to serve Hashem. We just followed our own intellect and we decided to do whatever we wanted, and that wasn't the rules. We broke the rules. The Ishbitzer Rebbe says, we have to be so careful of when we start doing our own thing in the name of God. I know I've said this a lot of times before. Rabbi Sachs, alav shalom, he wrote a wonderful book. One of the favorite book, I gotta be honest, the only book that he wrote that I read a lot of, because he's very philosophical and he loses me after a while. I lose interest, honestly. He's too smart for me. But he wrote one book called Not in God's Name. I found that book fascinating. Basically, the whole point of the book is how people, all religions it happens with, they do all sorts of crazy things in the name of God. And so his book is called Not in God's Name. Don't say what you're doing in the name of God. Own up to it. Call a spade a spade. You're doing it because you're greedy. You're doing it, the Arabs and you're doing it because you want land or oil. Don't, please. It's not in God's name. And we're also guilty sometimes of doing things in the name of God. And so the Ishbitzer Rebbe says, there's a halakha Shulchan Aruch, Siman 61. It's Shulchan Aruch writes, when you say Shema Yisrael, which was one of the holiest prayers we say the entire day, Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Hear Israel. Listen, Hashem is one. This is like the best, the top prayer we say. It's from the Torah. It's biblical. We have to say this from the Torah. The Amidah, the Shemona Esrei is not from the Torah. The Shema is one of the holiest things we say all day long. However, if you look at the Shema Yisrael in the Sidur, the last letter, Ehad, the Dalid is very large. And in the Torah, it's written the same way. Shaarey Yerushalayim says in Siman 61, when you say Shema Yisrael, make sure you say that Dalit good. The Dalit should be good. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Ehad. That's a D. Because if you don't, and you say it quickly, maybe you make it sound like a resh or a resh. And if you do that, people might think, or you might even start saying or sounding like Shema Yisrael, God forbid, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Aher. Hashem is someone else. And so you're actually trying to do the holiest thing, you're doing the worst thing. And so we have to be very careful. Sometimes the holiest thing and the most unholiest thing are the flip side of the same coin. So therefore, we try to make the Dalet nice, a D. Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Ehad. However, the poskim write, don't go crazy on the D. I see, that's the problem in our religion, in all religions. People are OCD and they go nuts with everything, right? And so I hear some people, Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Ehad. No. You just ruined the whole thing. Now, it's not Ehad. The poskim write this. Kafahim writes this, others. It's not Ehad. It's Ehad. Take it easy. We always go too far. And so it says the Ishbitzer Rebbe. What? Ehad. But not Ehad. I've heard some people do this. They make the Dalet like it's a eh. It's not Ehad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Ehad. Right? Says the Ishbitzer Rebbe, we're so worried at the end of Shema Yisrael of messing up the Dalet. By the way, it's a Dalet. We all call it I grew up saying Dalid. D-A-L-E-D, but it's a Dalet. We have to be careful not to confuse the Dalet with the Resh. We don't want to say Hashem Aher, God forbid. There are two Pisukim in the Torah. One, very good. Yariv's on the ball. Next week, you're giving the class, Yaviv. That's it. There are two Pisukim in the Torah. Very good. There are two Pisukim in the Torah that have large letters. There are lots of Pisukim, but these two Pisukim, one is like I just told you, Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Ehad, has a large Dalit at the end. One pasuk from yesterday's parasha, after the sin of the golden calf, Hashem says, Shemolecha, be careful. Don't pantish the havel el ahed. Don't worship other gods. Ahed has a large resh at the end of it. And so there's the resh, and there's the Dalit. That's why Shaarey Yerushalayim says, be careful not to mix the Dalit with the resh, because the Dalit is the holiest thing. Shema Yisrael is the holiest thing you can say all day long. And the resh, the large resh, is the worst thing. It's Avodah Zarah. And the lesson he says is, like I said, sometimes we think we're doing the holiest thing in the world. I'm doing the service of God. I'm feeling amazing. I'm flying on clouds. Careful. You turn that Dalit into a resh. You're not going to be serving Hashem anymore. Now you're serving yourself. And this is very, very dangerous line. As from people, like I say, OCD, we are OCD. It's a part of our religion, OCD. We're obsessive. We obsess, and sometimes we worship ourselves. Where do you find this? You don't have to look too far. Go to your local shul, right? Look at, and what is the telltale sign? If someone is serving themselves instead of serving God, their anger is the telltale sign. How much they care and how much they step on other people. If a person is ramming through another person in the shul, there's no chance they're serving God right now. They're serving themselves. And so anybody says, that's my seat, that's my this, that's my that, how dare you do this? I have to pray against the wall. You're standing in my way. Don't you know Shaarey Yerushalayim says this? Like I said, all this stuff is a bunch of nonsense because you're serving Ehad, not Ahad. And so we have to be careful because that Resh and the Dalit is really, really close, and you end up doing the worst thing from the best thing. And that the Rabbi Jeremy Finn says that's why the Egel, the Avon of the Egel, says the Gemara in Sanhedrin, the sin of the Egel, we're still paying back every generation. Hashem says, you have to pay. Hashem is Deen. Hashem is a true judge. A true judge doesn't say you're free, but he gives us a good deal. You can pay me a little bit over time. Pay me $1 every month. It's a great deal. And so we still have to pay for the sin of the calf. What does he say, Rabbi Finn? He says, we have to pay for this sin because we always have to think about this sin, because this is the biggest risk, turning the dal into a resh. As Rabbi Sachs says, not in God's name. At least be honest and say you're doing it for yourself. You're not doing it for God. And so that's one lesson right away of stumbling in the Egel HaZahav, in the calf. What happens next? Hashem said to Moshe prays to Hashem. And Hashem says, okay, come back. Well, Moshe broke the tablets. Come back. We'll try, take 2. We'll do another set of tablets. Aleh Elai Ahara, come back up to the mountain. It's an interesting Gemara. The Gemara says, we read the Torah on Shabbat morning. We read the Torah on Shabbat Mincha. Why? The Gemara says, why? The takana of Shabbat Mincha, the reason I read Shabbat Mincha is because people were just sitting all day long doing nothing on Saturday, playing sheshbesh. The whole Saturday playing sheshbesh. And so in order to get them back into the shul, we made a Torah reading. People come to shul for Torah. That's a draw. That's why we made Shabbat Mincha, we have Torah reading. Mishum Yoshveh Kiranot, because people are just sitting idly all day long. Okay, the Gemara goes on. The Gemara says, what about Monday and Thursday? Why do we read the Torah Monday and Thursday? We take out in shul Monday and Thursday. Why? So the Gemara says, because a person cannot live without drinking water for 3 days. Just like you can't live without drinking water for 3 days, so too you can't live without drinking Torah for 3 days. As it says, Hoi kol tzameh lechul lemayim. Anyone who's thirsty, go to the water. And mayim ela Torah. What is water? Water is Torah. Torah is our spiritual water. Just like you cannot go 3 days without drinking, your soul can't go 3 days without drinking Torah. And so that's why we put Monday and Wednesday and Thursday. Because if you count the days in between, so Saturday we read, Sunday, 1 day off today. Monday, tomorrow, right back at it. And then Tuesday, Wednesday, 2 days off, not 3. Thursday, we're back at it. Friday, 1 day off. Shabbat, we're back on it. We never go 3 days ever without Torah. Okay. So Safot says, thank you. Why Monday and Thursday? I can think of other days. Maybe you should do Monday and Wednesday. Because if you did Wednesday, you'll have off Thursday, Friday. It's only 2 days. Back on there, Saturday. Or you can do Tuesday, Friday. Or Tuesday, Thursday. There's lots of different ways you could do it. There's 7 days in a week. You just have to make sure there's no 3-day gap. And so the Tosafot says, the reason why we do it Monday and Thursday is because Moshe went up to the mountain. When Hashem said to Moshe, come up to get the Torah, to get the tablets, Aleh Elai Ahara, it was a Monday. And since Moshe went up on a Monday to get the Torah, it's a very special day. And it's a special day for Torah knowledge, Mondays, every single Monday. For the rest of time, just like Moshe went up, when we go to the Torah on Monday, we're like Moshe Rabbeinu, accepting the Torah, going up to get the tablets unto heaven. Okay. What about Thursday? And so Tosafot says, when Moshe went up the mountain on Monday, he came down the mountain on Thursday. And so Thursday is the day we actually got the Torah. Wow. And so every single week, for the men who come to shul, or even the women who come to shul, when we take the Torah out on Monday or on Thursday, we can think to ourselves, Moshe Rabbeinu got the Torah on this day. And that's why we have a little bit of the Ma'aseh Avot Siman Lebanim, a little bit of that power is now in us to get the Torah every Monday and every Thursday. Says the Ben Ish Chai, I have a better answer. Ben Ish Chai says, Hashem created the world, and He made a condition to the world. As long as we study Torah, the world will continue to exist. If we don't study Torah, we break our bargain, and we don't study Torah, we don't follow Torah, the world does not have to exist anymore. It's a condition. We have a covenant here between us and God. You study Torah, I'll keep the world alive. That's why it's a beautiful thing that we have Jews in Israel, and we have Jews here in LA and in New York. Because when we're sleeping, they're studying. When they're sleeping, we're studying. There's always someone studying Torah. Says the Ben Ish Chai, who are the witnesses to testify to Hashem they're still studying? So Moshe Rabbeinu called Shamayim va'aretz, heavens and earth. Moshe Rabbeinu says, I summon heavens and earth as my witnesses. Says the Ben Ish Chai, what day were the heavens and the earth created? On the second day. And so therefore, we want to, on day 2, on Monday, when the heavens and earth are created, we say, hey, heavens and earth, look at us, we're reading Torah. Go report it to God. We're doing our deal. Says the Ben Ish Chai, that's good for Monday. What about Thursday? And so he says, just like we compare water to Torah, the Torah is our water. Who lives in the water? Fish. If you take a fish out of the water, it dies. Fish cannot survive out of water. And so too, if you take us out of Torah water, Torah, we don't survive either. Fish were created on Thursday. And therefore, we want to remind ourselves, you see this Torah coming out on Thursday? That's because the fish were created today. We are fish. You take us out of the Torah for 3 days, we're done. We cannot survive. Imagine all these things we can think to ourselves every Monday and Thursday when we take the Torah in our shul. The Maharsha adds on to this. Maharsha is in the back of the Gemara. And the Maharsha says, Pasuk says, Im ta'azbeni yom, yomai ma'azbeka. Hashem says, if you leave me one day, I'm going to leave you 2 days. That's the deal. If you have a bad day and you don't study, it's really, really hard to come back and study the next day. You fall into the pattern. What is the deal? The Pasuk says, Im ta'azbeni yom, you leave me one day, yomai ma'azbeka. I will leave you 2 days. 2 and 1 is 3. You don't want to go 3 days without studying. And so therefore we have to make sure we check in with Hashem and some sort of Torah learning every day. Says the Maharsha, where do we see that the Jewish people went 3 days without water? They went 3 days without water in the desert before they got to Marah. Well, what happened? After they crossed the sea, after the Song of the Sea, it's in Parashat Beshalach. Right after the Song of the Sea, it says we went 3 days with no water. And then we got to a place with water, but the water was bitter. It was called Marah. What did Hashem say to Moshe? Take this stick, the wood, the tree, and throw it into the water, and it will be sweet. We took the stick, we threw it into the water, and it sweetened it. Okay? The water got sweet. This is where we learn. So the Maharsha says, we went 3 days without learning Torah. Like 3 days without drinking water is 3 days without drinking spiritual water. What happens if you go 3 days? Im ta'azbeni yom, yomai ma'azbeka, which means the Torah will run away from you. If you run away from the Torah for 1 day, it's going to run away from you for 2 days, which means it's going to be really hard for you to get back in with the Torah. If you take a break from your religiousness, it's really hard and may even be bitter when you want to try to get it back. What is the antidote? What do? Says the Maharsha, you throw that stick in there. You throw the bitter stick and you take it. You take the jump. You say, I'm not going to enjoy this class. You take a break from classes. You don't want to hear any more classes. And you say, it's boring. Put the class on. It might be bitter the first 10 minutes of the class, and then it's going to get sweet. The stick that's bitter, it's hayini mahazikimba. The stick is the Torah, supporting the Torah. There's no other choice. You have to jump in. There's a classic saying that we used to say in yeshiva. Our Rebbeim used to tell us in yeshiva. When kids used to say, as kids, starting in 5th grade already, we're learning Talmud, Gemara. Not all the Gemara is an interesting Gemara. A lot of it's very technical. The cow gores, it falls in the pit. One guy's grabbing the talet, says it's mine, and one guy's grabbing the talet, says it's mine. And so as kids, we're only kids. And so 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade, 9th grade, a lot of times you go to the Rebbe, you're like, Rebbe, I'm just not feeling it. I don't enjoy this. It's not fun. And so they used to say in the yeshiva, I still remember my Rebbe, I don't know if they still say in the yeshiva, they used to say the Torah is like a good cigar. The Gemara is like a good cigar. It's an acquired taste. The first cigar, you probably won't like it. Just jump in. Once you start smoking cigars, you're going to be hooked. I don't know. Are cigars healthy? They just seem to like escape all the bad press for some reason. I love the smell of cigars, by the way. I can't stand the smell of cigarettes. You ever go into someone's car, a cigar smoker's car? Oh, love the smell. The mixture of cigar with leather is just fantastic. Yeah. So they used to say in the Gemara, you have to just jump in. And so this is what the Maharsha tells us. We have to be careful. You don't want to miss a day of learning. Because if you do, it's going to be even harder on day 2. And even harder on day 3. And once you go 3 days without learning Torah, you just don't feel like jumping back in. And so if you go on vacation somewhere, if it's a 3-day vacation, when you come back, you may not feel motivated to jump back into learning. And so give a little bit of learning, even for that, without the 3 days. So now, every Monday and Thursday, if you come to shul, you can say, this is why we do it. According to Tosafot, Moshe Rabbeinu went up on Monday, came down on Thursday. According to the Ben Ish Hai, the heavens and earth were created on a Monday, and the fish were created on Thursday. We are fish. If you have husbands and sons and brothers or any male person that you can force or control or make their lives miserable if they don't listen to you, make sure they go to shul Monday and Thursday and never go 3 days without learning. Okay. What happens after this? So now Moshe Rabbeinu, we talk about the Egel, the Hazahav. Moshe Rabbeinu went up to Shamayim to get the new tablets. And now he comes down and his face is shining. Ki karan or pnei Moshe. They couldn't even look at him. They were scared to look at him. So he had to put on a mask. This is where the classic Jews have horns came from. Right? The picture of Moses with the horns coming out. Rashi says this. Ki karan or pnei Moshe. Look at Rashi over there. Rashi says karan is like a horn. The light was coming out like rays, like horns. Okay. If you look after we did the Egel, it says that we took our crowns off our heads. And Hashem said, leave the crowns. We got these crowns, and it's interesting, this Perashah especially is really hard just to know the pshat. What is the story? Forget Midrash. What are they talking about, crowns? Literal crowns? Are we talking about spiritual crowns? Right? Like I said, it's not a Midrash that says the calf jumped out. It's a pasuk that says the calf jumped out of the fire. It's nuts. This usually doesn't happen in Pesukim. It's usually Midrashim. What is this? Edyam, Mehar Horeb, the crown. And so the commentaries say, when we said Na'aseh v'nishma before Har Sinai or after Har Sinai, both times we said it, a malach came and put 2 crowns on our heads, one for Na'aseh, one for Nishma. Is it literal crowns? I don't know. It's definitely spiritual crowns, that's for sure. It could be both. It could be tefillin, but it says we took off our crowns. We took off something. And then it comes down and Moshe Rabbeinu's face is shining. Is it a coincidence? Are these 2 things related? Says the Arizal. This is quoted by both the Ben Ish Hai and the Hida. They both quote the same Arizal. The Arizal says, the crowns that we got at Har Sinai, these were rays of light. Or light. We were shining. Literally, we were shining after the Kabbalat Torah. After the Egel, we lost our light. We had to take it off because of how low we sunk. When it says Moshe Rabbeinu's face was shining, it's because Hashem said, well, where should I give all these light to? Where should the light go back? The storage house in heaven? It's all going to Moshe. All of our lights, all of our crowns, all went to Moshe. So now you took 600,000 flashlights, you combine them into one. That's why Moshe Rabbeinu's face was shining. We couldn't even look at his face. Now, it could be both reasons. Physically, his face was shining. We couldn't look at him. Spiritually, just the Kedusha, the holiness that emanated from his face was fearsome. Or it could also be, when we saw him, we said, that's our light. He took our light. It made us feel bad, it could be. It could be all three. Interesting thing that Arizal says. The Gemara says, Gemara Rosh Hashanah talks about the service of the temple, the Bet HaMikdash. As they were doing the sacrifices, the Leviim would sing songs. The Leviim would stand on the steps, the small Leviim and the older Leviim, they would stand on. Some of them had instruments, and some of them sung, were vocalists. What did they sing while the sacrifices were going on? What did they sing? Oh, so the Gemara says, just turn to our, the Gemara doesn't say this, but just turn to our Sidur. Every single day we say, Hayom Yom Rishon or Had B'Shabbat Kodesh, Hashir Shayu Havim Omrim Al Duchan. This is the song that they sing on the Duchan. And we have one every single day. The men say it in Shul. You can say it if you want. It's Tehillim. Every single day we say a different Tehillim. Sunday has its own Tehillim. Monday has its own. And so on Sunday, they sang the same Tehillim that we say on Sunday. That's what they were singing. On Monday, they sang the Monday one. That's why we don't say, well, this shul I think does, but my community where I grew up, we don't say the Shir Shel Yom on Rosh Chodesh. We say it here. I think we do say it here. Yeah? We don't. The Syrians don't say it. Why? Because it was replaced by the Rosh Chodesh song. We didn't say this, the Monday song on Rosh Chodesh. That's why some customs don't say the Shir on Chodesh or Hanukkah. So it was replaced by a different. We're just trying to do what the Levim were doing. Gemara says, okay, what about Shabbat? Shabbat, they sing the Shabbat Tehillim. Gemara says, what about Shabbat Musaf? Did they sing? What did they sing during the Musaf? Now, again, every tefillah that we have is in place of a sacrifice. Every single one. So the Shahrit prayer we have, Shahrit is in place of the Tamid of the morning. The Minha afternoon prayer is in place of the Tamid of the afternoon. Arbit is not in place of Arbit is it? That's why the Gemara has a question. Bless you. Is Arbit Ma'ariv? Is it a reshut or is it a hayuv? It's a machlokat in the Gemara whether Arbit is a real obligation for men to pray or it's a reshut. It's optional. Why? Because this is why. Bless you. Because it wasn't really replacing a sacrifice. There were no sacrifices at night, usually during the year. However, the limbs of the sacrifices were allowed to burn throughout the night, the ones that were slaughtered before. And so that's what Arbit may be representing. That's why, halachically, this has ramifications. If on Rosh Chodesh I didn't say Ya'aleh V'Yavo for Rosh Chodesh in Shachrit, I got to repeat the Amidah. Mincha, I got to repeat the Amidah. Arbit, I don't repeat the Amidah. Because Arbit is not a real chiyuv like the other ones. And so anyway, I'm not sure if you should have had to pray this one anyway. I'm going to make you pray it again? No. That's why Arbit has different laws than the other two prayers. Good? What did they do? So Musaf, we call them Musaf on Shabbat. We say Musaf. That's because they had a Korban Musaf. And that's why if you look at every single Musaf prayer we say during the year, holidays, Shabbat, in every Musaf prayer, it talks about the animals that they brought in the Bet HaMikdash for that prayer. Right? That's what we do. Musaf is always about animal sacrifices. Okay? Back to the Gemara Rosh Hashanah, Gemara says, what did they sing during the Musaf prayer? Did they sing the same thing they sang at Shachrit again, or they had a new Tehillim? Gemara says they sang not Tehillim. They sang Parashat Ha'azinu, one of the last parashot in the Torah, which is a song that Moshe Rabbeinu sang. Ha'azinu Hashamayim Va'adabera V'tishma Ha'aretz Minei Fi. It's a song, it's a poem. It's written poetically in two columns like this in the Torah. They sang that during Musaf. What's that got to do with Musaf? What's that got to do with Musaf Shabbat? It doesn't say Shabbat in that poem at all. What's the connection? And so Tosafot says Not Tosafot. Let's skip that for now. The commentaries say Maharsha. The Maharsha says Moshe Rabbeinu wrote this poem. This was his last poem before he died. Ha'azinu Hashamayim. We read this right around the holiday times, right before the holidays, between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. We read Ha'azinu, usually, unless it's a leap year or whatever. Moshe Rabbeinu wrote this poem. Moshe Rabbeinu was born, possibly, but for sure died on Shabbat. He died on Shabbat for sure. 3 people died on Shabbat. Moshe, David, Yosef. That's why we say, Sidkatecha. Okay? Sidkatecha sedek le'olam v'toatecha emet. Mincha of Shabbat. Ashkenazim say this also, yeah? Mincha of Shabbat. After the Amidah, we say Sidkatecha. Sidkatecha Siduk Hadin. It's talking about how Hashem is righteous. Siduk Hadin, what we say when someone passes away, lo alenu. Why? It sounds like it's kind of sad. Because there are 3 Pesukim, because there are 3 Tzadikim who died on Shabbat. So 1 Pasuk for Moshe, 1 Pasuk for David, 1 Pasuk for Yosef. Moshe definitely died on Shabbat, maybe even born on Shabbat. Some people say maybe he was chosen as a leader on Shabbat, which means maybe the burning bush was Saturday. Maybe. Regardless, Moshe Rabbeinu had a strong connection with Shabbat. And so since this is Moshe Rabbeinu's poem, he loves Shabbat. We should say it on Shabbat. Okay, thank you. Why Musaf? Why Musaf of Shabbat? Is that the only connection? Other commentaries add, Paro in Egypt, when he was working the people, he agreed that they can have 1 day off a week. Moshe Rabbeinu was the leader. And so he said, as the leader, choose one of the days. Which one would you like to have a day off? And Moshe said, I choose Saturday. I choose the 7th day. Later on, when the Torah was given, and Hashem says, Zachor Yom HaShibi'i, what? Moshe Rabbeinu, the Hidah writes this, Moshe Rabbeinu is like, what? The day that I chose is also the day that Hashem chose for Shabbat. You know the happiness he had? God chose the same day, it should be the off day as I chose. That's why the Hidah says, Yismach Moshe b'matanat hilko. What do we say in Shabbat Shachrit? Yismach Moshe b'matanat hilko on the Amidah, in this one Esrei. Moshe is so happy. Why is he so happy? Dude, Hashem chose the same day I chose. Okay. Says the Arizal, the light that we had from Har Sinai, the light that was taken away from us because of the Egel, all that light went to Moshe, and that's why his face was shining. Now that light all belongs to Moshe. Moshe decided, Hashem, I know they're not worthy to have this light. That's why you gave it to me. However, I want to return it as a loan back to them once a week. When does that light go back to us? On Shabbat. Says the Hidah and the Ben Ish Hai in the name of the Arizal, this is what it means, Neshama Yitera, the extra soul on Shabbat. What is the extra soul? It's the light that we originally had on Har Sinai, and we were all there. Asher Yeshno Po, we were all there. The light's being returned to us on Shabbat. That light, that infusion, which was ours first, is a very big happiness. It's the extra neshama. What does the Gemara say, neshama yitera? The Gemara Betzah says we have a neshama yitera on Shabbat, an extra soul on Shabbat. What does that mean? Rashi in the Gemara says it's an extra soul which allows us to eat more and drink more and not be nauseous. This is what Rashi writes. Look it up. This is what Rashi writes in Gemara Betzah. It could be both. It's both. We are superpowered. You have a Shabbat appetite. You have an extra soul. Yeah? Who doesn't have a Shabbat appetite? The extra soul, says the Arizal, is the light coming back to us. This is why we say Besamim Saturday night. Why do we say Besamim? Borei minei Besamim and Havdalah. Why do we do Besamim Saturday night? Because the extra soul is leaving us. And so we want to give a little farewell gift to our soul. And so we do Besamim for the soul. Why? When did I speak about this, that the neshama is neshima? Just said this. Purim, something? I don't know when I said this. The neshama is neshima. The soul loves smell. The soul loves to breathe. Neshama is the same word, neshima, breathing. Besamim, very powerful it's good for the soul. Besamim is healthy for the neshama. Like we said before, I don't want to repeat it. I don't remember where I just said this. I just said this in Gan Eden. When Adam and Rishon made the avon, when Adam and Hava ate from the tree, they used all the senses to sin besides for the sense of smell. She touched it. She saw that the fruit was good with her eyes, right? She didn't smell it though. And she tasted it, but she didn't smell it. And so the sense of smell has been preserved. It's a very holy sense. That's why it's our neshama. And when Hashem blew our soul into us, it's our breath. That's why when we talk and speak words with someone, our mouth, that's the godliness inside of you. Don't use it for the toilet. Our mouth, that's your godliness. It's the breath is your life. When someone passes away, what's removed? The breath is removed. That's it. Everything else is there for a little while. Just the breath is gone. And so we have to be careful how we speak. Back to the neshama and the neshima. That's why we say besamim Saturday night, because we're losing it's so sad. We're losing the neshama, so we say besamim. So it says the Arizal. Okay, great. It comes back to us on Shabbat. When on Shabbat does it come to us? Arizal says, at the time of Musaf. At the time of Musaf. Now, if you look in the Sidur, when we say in Musaf, Ayeh, some Sidurim say, try to stretch out the word Ayeh. Ayeh, make it with all the Ha'ari. So where is his holy place? When we say Ayeh, we have Kavanah that it should come into us. At that moment, the extra neshama. At the time of Musaf, our light is returned to us. Aha. Moshe Rabbeinu, who got all of our light, Yismach Moshe b'matenat hilko. Moshe was so happy with his portion. He got all of our light. He on his own decided to share it back with us. And he made the song Ha'azinu Hashamayim Va'adabera. The first letters of each aliyah, of each break, spells Haziv Lach. If you look at Ha'azinu, it's one of the last parashot in the Torah. If you look at it, look at Aliyat Rishon, Sheni, Shilishi, the first letter of each aliyah. It spells Haziv Lach. The light is yours. Ha'azinu, the He is for Ha'azinu. Zechor Yemot Olam is the Zayin. Yeah? And go down the aliyot. That's why the Shulchan Aruch says we're usually allowed to break up a parasha different ways. We don't have to follow the book. Bless you. Shilishi could be different. You could do 3 Pesukim later. But Ha'azinu, it's al-Hachal Shulchan Aruch, Ha'azinu, you're not allowed to break it differently. You must do the breaks and then you do it. That's in the Chumash. Why? You got to spell the words Haziv Lach. The Gemara says in Rosh Hashanah, when we said Ha'azinu in the Beit HaMikdash and Musaf Shabbat, we didn't say the whole parasha, one shot. We broke it. It was a 7-week cycle following the aliyot that we have in Ha'azinu. So week 1 of Shabbat was Aliyat Yishona, the Hey. The next week on Shabbat Musaf, we said the Zayin. The next week the Yud. 7 weeks, we finished the whole poem. We went back. We did this over and over and over again. Every 7 weeks, we finished the poem of Ha'azinu. Why? Because we're singing to Moshe Rabbeinu during Musaf time. At the time where he's returning our light to us, we're saying, Moshe Rabbeinu, Haziv, this light, Lach, it's yours. It's yours. We appreciate that you gave some of it back to us, but it belongs to you. Who are we talking to? Haziv Lach. The radiance is yours. We're talking to Moshe, the author of the poem. And so there's another thing we can think about. And so we have a few things we can think about. Number 1, and it all has to do with prayer. Number 1, Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. The Resh and the Dalid. It's so easy to mix them up. Maran Shulchan Aruch, Siman 61 says, be careful, make that a Dalid. Hashem Echad. Why? You don't want to make it a Resh. What's the difference? A Resh and a Dalid. A Resh is Avodah Zarah. Lo tishtahabeh eleh achir. Dalid is Avodat Hashem. You may not even sniff it. You may even think you're doing the best service of Hashem. You're worshiping yourself. And so that's why we have to keep in mind in Shema. That's one thing we can keep in mind in Shema. And then we can move to Monday and Thursday, if you come to shul, or if you send your people to shul. Because, secret, the men in your life are afraid of you. We are. We're frightened of you. Make us go to shul. Monday and Thursday, you tell us, we'll do it. Monday and Thursday, they should go to shul. influence them to get up and go to shul. Why? They can't go 3 days without water. We're like fish. On Monday, we think Monday. This is the day Moshe Rabbeinu went up the mountain to get the Torah. This is the day of the week we go up to get the Torah. And on Monday is the day Shemaim and Aretz were created. Heavens and earth were created, and they're testifying right now, and they're looking at you. I testify that he is not in shul, or he is in shul. Thursday, as the Ben Ish Chai says, we're like fish. The fish were created on Thursday. We're like fish. Take us out of the water, we don't survive. Take us out of the Torah, we don't survive. That's another thing we can think about. And the last thing, every Shabbat Musaf, when we say Keti Litinu Lecha, Hazara, and we say Ayem Ekom Kevodo Leha Ariso, you breathe in and you say, I just got my Neshama Yitera. It's the light that I had at Har Sinai. My soul was there. The light was removed and it went to Moshe. Moshe graciously, Yismach Moshe b'matenat chilko, says the Chidah. Moshe is happy giving away his portion back to us. Yismach Moshe b'matenat chilko, he gives it back to us. We say, thank you, Moshe Rabbeinu. Haziv lach. And then we go home, we eat extra and we drink extra. That's it for today. Have a beautiful week, everybody.
So we are getting the summer with her on Shabbat.